This is QTV News. I am Marietu Sidibe and thanks for joining us. First, the main local, business and international news headlines. In local news, President Barrow launches legal year 2020 and the Attorney General says the ex-president may be subject to arrest if he comes back. As the TRRC resumes, an expert witness gives testimony on how Jammeh assumed and held onto power. A report by an investigation panel has revealed administrative lapses at the Food Safety and Quality Authority. In business news, return to sender. Why has Malaysia returned 150 containers of plastic waste? And a major makeover is keeping Cape Town's wastewater flowing and unsoiled. In international news, King Day is commemorated in America in honor of Martin Luther King. A strong signal of interfaith support is sent as Muslim world leaders visit Auschwitz. First, the local news in detail. President Adama Barrow on Sunday presided over the opening of the 2020 legal year in a ceremony held at the Law Courts Complex in Banjul. QTV's Momodu Lamin Choi attended the event, and this is his report.
It is the official opening of the legal year 2020, and members of both the bar and the bench are present. It is a time when lawyers, judges and politicians come together to mull on the past, present and future of the judiciary. In their robes and wigs with the responsibility of administering justice, the president meets them to hear their progresses, challenges and the way forward. Lawyer Saliu Tal, the president of the Gambia Bar Association, is impressed with the conducive environment lawyers enjoyed in the current dispensation in contrast to the recent past. With such opportunities in the judiciary, Mr. Tal advises lawyers to always be guided by ethics of the profession. As the number of lawyers called to the bar increases, this has added more issues to fix by the Gambia Bar Association, including about its members. Mr. Tal also calls for more experienced and competent Gambians to be appointed to the bench and for an extension of more courts to all regions.
As our numbers grow, we are witnessing an increasing number of complaints against lawyers, and this is a cause for concern because it undermines confidence in the bar and the legal system as a whole. This is a matter that both the bar and the General Legal Council takes very seriously, and will ensure that lawyers who fall short of ethical professional standards are dealt with appropriately.
The Minister of Justice Abubakar M. Tambedu acknowledges what he calls a marked improvement of democracy in the Gambia, particularly in the judicial system. This includes the transitional justice process as well as legal and legislative reforms taking place in the country. Mr. Tambedu is of the belief that revelations from the TRRC hearings have made it obvious that crimes against humanity were committed under former President Yahya Jammeh's regime. A campaign for Yahya Jammeh's return to the Gambia was staged by his supporters last week. Mr. Tambedu tells Gambians about what Jammeh would face should he return to this country.
If former President Yahya Jammeh ever comes back to this country, he will face immediate arrest and charges of the most serious kind. He will be subjected to an accountability process like any ordinary accused person in this country. And no amount of irresponsible talk or political brinkmanship will prevent this from happening.
He also warns people who harass, intimidate and mock victims.
Let those who mock at or use threatening or abusive language against the victims be warned. Do not test the limits of our democratic tolerance or confuse our respect for the rule of law with weakness.
Access and reasonably speedy dispensation of justice can be ensured by stakeholders in the judicial sector. With 8,178 registered cases and 3,687 pending in 2019, Asanbi Jallow, the Chief Justice, describes this as a reasonable success. The Chief Justice expresses the need for a higher disposal rate without a rush to justice, which he says can result in injustice. He also appreciates government's respect for the independence of the judiciary.
All of them, those in remand custody, were brought out before the courts during that period, and some 962 persons accused of criminal offenses, including those on remand, were brought before the courts, and the cases of 382 of them were disposed of during those 2 months. Disposed of through convictions, through acquittals, and through discharges. Since then, the rest of the criminal cases continue to be dealt with by the courts on a priority basis.
This occasion not only marks the beginning of the 2020 legal year, but also coincides with the day when President Adama Barrow's presidency clocks exactly 3 years. The president talks about government's initiatives in the transitional justice and legislative processes in the country. President Barrow mentions the significance of a sound justice system for stability and development of a nation.
In spite of the steady progress we have made as a nation in the past 3 years, more work needs to be done in the legal sector. I have observed, for example, the crime rate and the desire for violence among a section of youth, especially crimes of sexual violence against women and girls. In addition, the backlog and slow handling of court cases. We need to step up on these areas to maintain public confidence in the judiciary.
As the demand for justice increases in the Gambia, courts are given more work to do. But with inadequate access to courts and expensive services of lawyers, more priority and support for the judiciary is needed for smooth and proper dispensation of justice for everyone and to everyone. Mohamed Lamin Choi reporting for QTV News.
As the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission on Monday resumes its first public hearings in 2020, an expert witness has testified on the making of the Yahya Jammeh's dictatorship. QTV's Ansumane Esonyasi reports.
Monday's public proceedings at the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission ushered in the commencement of the Commission's 11th session as investigations continue on human rights violations under ex-President Jammeh's rule. The Commission heard from its first expert witness, Professor Dr. Abdullah Sen, whose testimony focused mainly on the institutional failures and factors that led to the military takeover in 1994, the mindset of Gambian soldiers, how the AFPRC was transformed into a political establishment, and how Jammeh moved from a young officer into a dictator. The witness, who was mandated to conduct an extensive research into the Jammeh dictatorship, told the Commission that economic, political and ethnic divisions contributed significantly to the overthrow of the Jawara regime.
From where they came. In looking at coup d'etats, it is important to focus on this dimension, because many times coup d'etats occur not for what they say, but for what they do. They provide justifications, corruption, and even though corruption was rife, some would argue, it wasn't to the extent of being important enough, but it was still a justification provided by Jammeh and his cohorts.
Furthermore, the witness told the Commission that Jammeh had utilized legal means to muzzle the media and all voices of dissent to entrench himself in power. Asked about the suggestion that Jammeh lacked the cultural component that Gambians possess, the witness has this to say.
Could you tell us more about paragraph 51, please?
Paragraph 51 was intended primarily to give a composite picture of who Yahya Jammeh really is. He is the byproduct of African cultures, Jola, and other ethnic groups that inhabited his village. He also was exposed to Christianity and Islam. He also, after coming to Banjul and finding himself in a larger political and cultural milieu, felt in many ways marginalized.
Meanwhile, the witness has submitted his research work to the Commission. Ansumana Esonyasi for QTV News.
A report by an investigation panel has revealed administrative lapses at the Food Safety and Quality Authority has come to light after staff at the institution were dismissed by management last week, accusing them of spreading false information. Aliou Cissé reports.
In October 2019, staff of the Food Safety and Quality Authority, among several issues, lodged a petition with the Office of the Vice President against their Director General Zainab Jallow for what they allege as the DG's bad leadership and mismanagement, unfavorable working conditions, lack of respect for internal structures and procedures, frequent travels, even when some are meant for junior staff, and nepotism among others. The move by the staff prompted an investigation. The four-member investigation committee included Musa Kamara, Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Personnel Management Office. On 9 January 2020, 22 staff were sent on administrative leave without pay, pending the outcome of the investigation. Unhappy by the move, the staff convened a press conference at the FSQA on 15 January 2020 to express their dissatisfaction. 2 days later, while at work, some of the staff were issued with dismissal, suspension, and administrative letters. Defiant, they reported at work on Monday. Jalika Keta, a food inspector, calls for government's intervention.
We want the government to come to our aid. We want Barrow to do justice to this.
The committee's investigation report seen by QTV says there is no evidence that the DG travels at least twice a month, as alleged by the petitioners, and that the DG was given clearance for her travels, contrary to the allegations made by the petitioners. The investigation also found no evidence that some of the DG's travels were meant for junior staff, as alleged by the petitioners. However, the committee found that the DG was granted clearance to be paid 10 days per diem to attend 2 international meetings in July 2017, instead of which the DG was paid 15 days per diem instead. According to the investigation, this implies that the DG was paid an extra 5 days without authorization. For this same trip, the DG claimed to have bought an air ticket for herself and then requested to be refunded by $168,800 by FSQA. However, there is no evidence that the DG bought the ticket, the panel indicated in its report. A request by the committee for an invitation to confirm whether the trip was actually at cost to government or not could not be provided by the DG. On the allegations of biased appointment and promotion towards family members, the investigation report states that the committee could not find any evidence of family members or close associates being appointed by the DG, nor was there evidence that any board member was handpicked by the DG. The investigation committee recommends that the DG's family should refrain from using the authority's vehicles forthwith, that none of the petitioners should be punished or disadvantaged for signing a petition. It also recommends that the board should further ensure an MOU is signed with any government institution considered relevant to food safety business. According to the panel, the board should be proactive and meet the staff periodically and know their concerns to have a reputation of petitions without the board being aware. The committee says the DG refused to respond to its questions concerning the $40,000 cease and other amounts she is alleged to have requested and received for corporate social responsibility. It recommended that the board should ask her to account for the money. Staff must be given tools to work with, including desktop and laptops, as soon as possible in a bid to improve service delivery, efficiency and effectiveness, it recommends. Despite these strong recommendations, Jalika Keta, a food inspector, believes the board have not done their work properly to implement the committee's recommendations.
We feel the board of directors should have done their work properly, but this wasn't done. And instead of them doing the recommendations as it was highlighted in the recommendation, that in the report, instead they went and fired and set staffs on administrative leave.
QTV tried but could not get an official response from the DG on the findings, and we were told she is currently out of the country. The FSQA's functions include the overall official control of food safety and quality. What is certain is that dismissal of the staff will greatly affect the operation of the institution until those removed are replaced or reinstated. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cissé.
Residents of London Corner have complained about a ditch dug in the community, supposedly to ease flow of water during the rainy season. The ditch that has gradually eroded into a gully and full of water has now become dangerous, polluted, and a breeding place for insects. Our reporter Ajibintu Drame went to find out.
Litter on the surface of the contagious water and a breeding space for organisms such as mosquitoes, cockroaches and tadpoles. Also abandoned houses destroyed by the water, especially during the rainy season. The road has been split into two, making transportation difficult. Residents have accused the government for digging the ditch for the passage of water during the rainy season, but they are worried about the level of environmental pollution during the dry season. Momodu Lamin Jobate, a resident of London Corner, says they face a lot of health problems as the area is not conducive and a lot of accidents happen during the rainy season.
Mosquitoes and bad smell disturb us here. The government dug this place a long time ago to create water passage when it rains, but it is disturbing us now. People do slip off and fall, most especially pregnant women, old people and children. We are really in need of help.
Tida Drame, a resident, lost her house and livestock during the rainy season. She says they face the same problem every year and further states the challenges they face.
Fenko leli ya jeto wiri tarakito wale jeto wiri bare tarakito la je wiro anembi ntema ntolu nyina mfa jiyo yembatande baki.
They used tractors to dig the ditch, and since then we have been experiencing flooding. If you take a tour of this place, you will see the damage that they have caused. Since they dug this place, they have never bothered to fill the place, and it's costing us dearly. London Corner sits on a swampy area, and it is believed that water table is very low. But the question is, what are the environment agencies doing to ameliorate this problem? Neng Neng Ying, a senior principal environmental inspector with the National Environment Agency, blames the residents, saying the community should stop dumping waste products into the stream and instead should endeavor to institute proper waste management. Mr. Ying further states that the government want people to evacuate dwellings near the stream, but residents failed to comply.
The blockage in the stream causing flooding and any other environmental hazards that may occur or that is affecting them directly or indirectly is their responsibility. If they have proper waste management scheme, and I mean coming up now, we all see this, can see that KMC is doing very well in terms of waste collection and disposal. So this they have to respect and avoid and stop dumping waste into this place. And what I mean to save themselves also from these mosquitoes also. If you can see all these, compounds around here, if they come together, make sure that this place is clean.
He added that about 7 years ago, there were plans to rehabilitate the stream, but due to financial constraints, this was never implemented. Ajibintu Drame, QTV News.
We will go with a short commercial break, and when we return, in business news, we find out why Malaysia no longer thinks it's good business to be the world's dumping ground. And in international news, King Day is commemorated in America in honor of Martin Luther King. We find out about the man. Join us after the break for these stories and more, as well as some sports news.
QCell is at it again with its brand new free mobile app.
Oh yes! Now you can access the wonderful world of QCell with the new app and get all your favorite services on the app. There's no need to remember any codes.
Fantastic! No more codes. And even better, with the new app, you can live stream QTV and listen to Q Radio on your phone anywhere, anytime.
Yes! Listen to Q Radio Live, purchase your Q Power tokens, use your Q Money wallet, and do much more, all for free on the app.
Go now and download the app for free from Play Store or the App Store.
And you can get 30 days free QTV streaming once you download the app. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's because it's QCell, the network you trust for great things. QCell, a decade of innovation.
A lifetime of trust.
Welcome back. In business news, return to sender. Malaysia returns 150 containers of plastic waste. What had seemed a good business opportunity for some has hit a snag. Malaysia government has returned 3,737 metric tons of plastic waste back to the developed nations that dumped them in the country since the middle of 2019. The government says it has taken the decision as they refuse to become the world's dumping ground. This follows a similar move by China. Keeping Cape Town's wastewater flowing unsoiled. After having to make do with wastewater plants built in the 1950s, Cape Town is in the process of upgrading its wastewater treatment plants. As the populations in the former land informal settlements have increased, so too have businesses to cater for them. The plant changes will benefit all and improve the health of citizens. In international news, King Day is commemorated in America. Today is Martin Luther King's Day in America, a special day where people celebrate the civil rights hero. For over 30 years, the third Monday in January has been dedicated to celebrating the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., an incredibly influential figure who helped shape America's history. Here, we have a look at what he means to a few American youngsters, tell us what his legacy means, and we hear an excerpt from his I Have a Dream speech, said to be the most famous speech made in the 20th century.
When all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty.
Strong signal of interfaith support. Muslim world leaders visit Auschwitz. Not many Muslims have visited Auschwitz, the notorious site of some of history's worst autocracies. However, to mark 75 years since the concentration camp's liberation, high-ranking leaders of Muslim and Jewish communities are coming together for a joint visit. As this is taking place, stories are emerging of how Muslims in Albania protected Jews from being detected by the Nazis and executed. Up next is the sports news. My colleague Aliou Cisse is here with some very interesting sports stories. Aliou, what do you have for us today?
Thank you very much, Mariatu. We're starting with women football because the Gambia national women under-20 team was on Saturday defeated 3-2 by Burkina Faso in Ouagadougou in the opening game of the under-20 qualifiers. The team lost 3-2, and the Gambia's 2 goals came from Catherine Jata and Hadi Wali. This means the team will now have to struggle for the return leg, and Fodeba will need only 1-0 to qualify to the next stage against Nigeria. From there, we move to the national senior team because the Gambia will return to action in March when they host Gabon in the ongoing qualifiers for the 2021 AFCON. Gambia is in Group D together with Angola, Gabon, and DR Congo. They currently top the group with 4 points. I spoke to the team manager, Usman Chodrame, earlier on before we came on air.
We as a federation, we are very ready, and we know the coach, immediately he has the news, he had the news, he has to contact me, and we had to really, have to have a change of plan because we were all expecting to play the next games, official matches in June, and then, ultimately in September. But this is no more the case. So we were, like I said, we were thinking about playing some test games. We were thinking to play a few, countries that we know would get us, some good tests, and to eventually try to, put in a few new players that we would think could really, help, in trying to strengthen some of the areas of the team. But this is now not going to happen, so we have to continue with the ones that we have. Of course, there are still, ways that the coach is trying to get a few new names, for certain positions that he really wanted to strengthen before we play Gabon.
From there, we moved to international sports because the 26-year-old Chelsea and Germany defender Antonio Rudiger has donated $101,000 to the Sierra Leone's free quality education initiative. He made the donation to the President Mada Bio in London. That's all we have for in the sports news today.
Thank you, Ali, for that very interesting sports news. Before we end this bulletin, let's take a quick look at our main stories. In local news, President Barrow launches legal year 2020, and the Attorney General says the ex-president may be subject to arrest if he comes back. As the TRRC resumes, an expert witness gives testimony on how Jammeh assumed and held onto power. A report by an investigation panel has revealed administrative lapses at the Food Safety and Quality Authority. In business news, return to sender. Why has Malaysia returned 150 containers of plastic waste? And a major makeover is keeping Cape Town's wastewater flowing and unsoiled. International news. King Day is commemorated in America in honor of Martin Luther King. A strong signal of interfaith support is sent as Muslim world leaders visit Poland. That's all we have for you in this edition of the news. Join us tomorrow for more news. Thank you for watching.